bathroom and play on playtime and volleyball some childhood and stay home.
See, Mother? They've got the same ragged sheets at the windows and the beds that they had from last weekend. What did that thing be getting new? The table has a broken leg and dirt switches the courtyard under the bed. See, Mother? The handle of the switch has been broken and put together again. Think so? Can you think it worth the trouble?
At funerals, 'twas even pleasanter.
You think it's true now what Barney Gallagher said of him before he died? That he's the tightest fisted man in Donegal? Sure. I've heard my father say many times that he would rather bargain with the devil himself. Did the mother?
And when she, you know what?
The windows and beds that they had from last weekend. What do you think they'd be getting new? The table has a broken leg and dirt soaked into the courtyard under the bed. See, Mother, the handle of the switches been broken and put together. Big so ugly, you'd think it was the trouble.
At funerals, 'twas even pleasanter.
Do you think it's true now what Barney Gallagher said of him before he died?
Better.
The tightest fisted man in Donegal? Sure. I've heard my father say many times that he would rather bargain with the devil himself. Did the mother?
And when she wasn't pestering folks in their cabins, dead or alive, she was pestering the creatures. She had a way of tweaking the cocktail out of the feathers out of the cocktail as he went by. And she would be pulling the pig's bristles from behind his ears. And for good measure, she'd be feeling for the little hairs in the soft of the dog's mouth, and she'd tug at them quick.
Look at me, beat the dog. I'm not afeard of him.
Holy sacrament, there's the net.
Please, darling, leave it obvious and put that in a crock before you do breaking it. Eat the bit of pork like a good child, and your dad'll buy 3 pence worth of sweets at the shop. Look at me. If I do not like the stir-about, I could throw it out and eat curd bread instead.
Now y'all go. She'd eat what she liked and she'd leave what she liked. There was no end to the trouble she could raise. And before she was 9, days of peace in the neighborhood were rarer than saints' days. And before she was 9, even her mother, who doted on the very breast she grew poor and pinched looking. Not a decent and tidy piece of clothing would that child keep on her bed. It was a fresh dress morning, another noontime, and often another evening. She tore and she dirtied with as free a hand as if her wee body had been covered with skins and feathers, same as a creature. Okay, 2 neighbors. She's got to go first to do this. Okay, same as a creature. Good.
I, as a loyal and lazy, childlike Meg, you can set up nights pay for eggs. Like as not, the poor soul has a basket full of bags to mend the wash safe for morning.
Good. Very good. And at last, Midsummer Day came, as chill as any time in the whole year to be seeing the fairies. Meg had gone out into the yard, and she had, where a watchdog was tied up, she had fetched with her a bit of currant cake. You gotta go in and put that on.
Kill that terrible dog! I kill the dog! We must put her legs and clean it. If her asking me, I say she's supposed to make good work of it.
She's a good dog, believe me, but the child is bad entirely. She must be one shoot her.
Everybody's growling at her. The dog growled. Everybody else stay, and we got to get the workers on. Okay, Christopher, you're a worker. Come back over this way. Good. There's a worker. There's a young worker. What do you say, Bukita?
Go home.
Everybody turn and start that way. Good. Turn, Christopher. You can't be facing. Yeah, that's good. You're making a big pie. Good. Go with those sticks. That's good. Now, when you hear me say she slept the day out, Raphael, don't get up and leave yet. I have to say the men went home. When they say that, you go that way to change, okay? You walk off that way up the stairs, all right? She slept the day out. The men finished their raking all in that portion of the field where Meg lay, and they went home. Now, forget you go up the stairs, or you go out that way. They went home. Okay. I need all of the leprechauns.
Do you have your hat on when you're a racer?
Do you see how many times you have to work before you can actually come out of the stairs? And the moon came up, making as lovely and gentle a night as any you could be asking for.
Look about me. See our no. She's a poor dancing we'll have this night. We never get to pay right now after the way Meg's tumbled in. Tis not the hay I'm minding. Tis the sky and biscuits on porridge and strata. Puttering up everything. I would like to get my hands on the untidy child one. I get them in attention. Think of all the miles of dirty dresses below and broken cups and pitchers and whatnot we have to look at. We'll catch us on a fine night and we'll say, not one lives so nice than another. Well, here I am. What do you do? Make the fairy ring, Leeman. Ring, fairy ring, fairy sense and fairy sing. Round, round, softly round, never sound. Sway, sway, as the grasses sway, down by the flower, break of day. Circle around, tweak and swing, fairy men and fairy men. Light and dark, light and hill, one by one and merry. Touching fingers, so round and round we go. Move hand or place a can we make, Barney Leg. Try to make one of these flying famous from lobsters.
Did you bring that skirt for...
Whoa! Look about ye. See our fine dancing floor cluttered up with the food that's been throwing away since you were wee. Here's the rake. Tidy it up and put in those quills yonder. Give me a year or two more and there'll not be a single scar in this garden.
Louie. Teresa, I can't do this with you.
Down here.
So, Meg found herself captured by the big fairy folk and taken into an underground raid where, as far as she could see upon the ground, was cold porridge, crusts of oaten bread, and lumps of stir-brout, and crumbs of cake and whatnot. Well, it was slow business. She raked the biggest, and she swept the smallest, and she worked until she was tired and ached in every joint. Hungry? She could feel the sides of her stomach scraping together.
Oh, not eat this thing. If I work for you, the least fire you can have is to bring me a mug of fresh milk and a slice of fresh bread. Ha! Get up. Ha ha ha.
Ha ha ha, there'll be nothing place like them that's place the good food like herself. And the sooner you begin to eat it up, the sooner it will be gone. Not a decent morsel will you get till then.
So the end was that Meg was forced, driven by hunger, to eat up her own leavings. How long it took, I cannot be telling you for her to gather it all up and fetch it away. But gone they were at last. And then Meg had her first sup of good fresh milk and her first bite of bread. Wait until I finish talking and then you'll come. And then you say, here you are. It tasted sweeter than all the currant cakes she had ever stuffed into her poor, silly stomach.
Here's your milk.
After that, the fairies took her to another great place that was cluttered over with all the torn and dirty dresses. They were everything she had ever worn since she was old enough to creep about the floor.
Oh, never. Not even
Rejoin as soon as they jumped in.
Hoity toity, you better mind your tongue better than that. After you washed them in, you have to pick out all the sharp, ugly words you haven't spoken. Pick them out from the kind ones. We don't believe in genetics. Pulling nettles of different birds out of lamb's wool is pleasanter business than separating the two, as you'll soon find out.
So Meg shut her mouth tight and set to on the washing. If breaking up the food had been hard, this was worse. An old fairy woman brought her where the wash tub stood. And when the dresses were clean, she had then to mend and starch and iron them. If the first to take was days, the last took her weeks and months.
Will I never get by this work? Will I never get back to my own dear lonely home with my precious parents? Lovely old precious you treated them. I'm thinking that they could have it in grand rest entirely. As for the neighbors, they settled down to enjoying life for the first time.
Well, when the dresses were washed and mended and folded up neatly the way that they could be carried off, then the wee men took Meg to another place. Now, who's gonna carry them off? Like a great field of nettles was growing all the sharp, ugly words she had ever spoken. Growing in the midst of them were a few pretty bits of things like flowers, pink and yellow and white, struggling to get their heads up above the crowded thorns.
I would like you could see for yourself that sometimes something was thinking like this.
Giving you to a boy that not be a foolish boy in this garden.
You are to pull the nettles and leave the place good to get the glowing blossoms a chance to multiply.
Meg didn't trust her tongue. She nodded her head, just got down on her knees, and began pulling. She pulled until her hands were swollen and like two red lumps of burning turf. Her back ached. Her knees were rubbed bare. She cried and she wailed, but she learned to keep a still tongue in her head, because every time she let an angry word drop, it took root right in front of her and made one more nettle to pull. Well, at last the place was clear, and all alone stood those few wee blossoms, like shipwrecked sailors on a desert island.
Poor these sweet things. If the place was going forward, what a pretty place it would be.
Y'all can't be on the stage, Captain. I. And from that day till the day she died, Meg kept a civil tongue in her head and minded her own business and ate the food that was put before her. And she had a wedding of her own one grand day. And like as not, if you were to go to Loud Ernie tomorrow and take notice of a well-bred child, that child, the neighbors would be telling you, that child is the great-great-great-granddaughter of wee Meg Barneyland. Now, everybody, come on. Yay! Take them out. Good job. What a great job. Very nice. Very hard work. Good work, everybody.
I'm gonna wear
Good, Chris. There once lived in the Loud Ern a rich farmer. He and the wife were soft, good-natured pair. Come easy, go easy was the way they took the world, and the world took them. They had one child, a girl named Meg. Wee Meg Barneyland, they called her. Now, there be childer and childer, as you well know. But you may have traveled the world over to find the magic Meg. She had a way of her own, and she had it entirely.
Come hither. Go yonder. Fetch this in. Take that.
The pair took her wherever they went, to fairs and festivals, to weddings and to wakes.
My maid, she's a terribly observing child.
Thanks. Here comes Meg. Hide the best platter in under the bed and get the new crock up to the lock. I'll get the fresh hags from the hand and between the feathers and back of the door. Tag and pick up in the pen and play that Kelly watch a shower to stay home.
See, Mother? They've got the same ragged cheeks as the windows and beds that they had when it last became. Would you think they would get new? The table has a broken leg and dirt swept into the corner under the bed. See, Mother, the handle of this picture? They're broken and put together again. Being so ugly, you think it was the trouble?
At funerals, 'twas even pleasanter.
Do you think it's true now what Barney Galva said of him before he died? That he used to